Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leo Alves podcast. And in today's podcast episode, I was close to saying I've got a three-peat guest on here, but I think this is a four-peat now. He's definitely been on twice before. We've done two solo episodes, and then we done another episode where there was three of us, including another amazing online coach and Jeff Packman. But now he's on for his fourth episode. It's been a while. I think it's been a long time. I think the last episode you were on was when I was in like maybe the 60s, and now this is like episode 108. So it's been a good while. Anyway, I'm speaking about my good mate Bob Hoover. I'll let you briefly introduce yourself. Maybe you don't need to go into so much depth as I'll link the prior episodes, but then we can go from there.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's already been, what'd you say, 108 episodes, man? That's awesome. It's been a while. Yeah. So thank you for having me on again, bro. I appreciate it. As Leo said, my name's Bob Hoover. I'm a personal trainer, online fitness coach. I've been a trainer for 4 years now, both in person and online. And honestly, that's basically it about me. I just live life every day and just, you know,
And
follow the way it goes.
you're based in Ohio, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm from the US, based in Ohio. Nothing fun up here at all. Literally nothing fun. We just have a very short summer, which is about to end now, and winter's already going to be here, which is awesome. But yeah, that's how interesting it is up here.
Okay, so yeah, just for context, so the other day, for context to the listener right now, the other day, it was about 2 days ago. Me and Bob recorded an episode for his podcast, and just due to time limits, we had to we had like a maximum, like a time limit, but that we basically couldn't go over. And I felt like our conversation kind of ended before while we were just like scratching the surface while it was getting good. I thought it was really fun. So I was like, you know what, Bob, let's just extend that chat kind of like to, I guess, extend that conversation onto my podcast episode. And I'm gonna be honest, I have nothing planned for this episode, but one thing that I would love to start with, because again, that prior episode was quite time sensitive, that I didn't get to ask you in that last episode was when you mentioned, oh yeah, so you're going to be a father soon. How does that feel?
That's a good question. Yeah, I kind of threw that at you. It's exciting, but also at the same time scary. Because obviously it's something that I've never done before. And um with the world we live in today with there's just so much technology and so much going on. It's like now it's not only just me I have to worry about, it's a whole nother human being that I get to raise, and I want to make sure that I set them up the most to live a good life, be successful, and also be independent as well. So it's a weird feeling, and it I feel like it still hasn't like kicked in fully until I actually see my son when he comes out. But it's not just me now, right? It's like a team. Like it's me and my wife and my son, which is very exciting, but also you know a little nervous too.
I was about to ask if you knew the gender of the baby yet, but it seems you do. So it's going to be a son that you have. Um, that yeah, I can understand those emotions. I'm yet to feel it, but yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. When did you? I think you mentioned he's due in January.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess that's a little while away because the follow-up question was one that I did have in mind, but I'd understand if you hadn't given it too much thought yet. But do you have like any ideas as to how maybe you're gonna have to like navigate this new chapter within your own health and fitness journey once you have your son?
Yeah, dude, that's a great question. I haven't really thought too much about it. I've recently, for the first time, really in the past 10 years, I've kind of let my fitness go, so to speak. Actually, when kind of starting when we first found out that my wife was pregnant, I took a little bit of a back seat for fitness, and focused a lot more on like business and family. And I kind of just let it get away from me. I didn't really work out as much as I used to. I would go maybe once or twice a week. My diet, I just, you know how it goes. It's just easy to let it slip away from you. So instead of having like my typical go-to meals, my typical high protein, high, like fiber meals, I just would eat out a lot more. I would just make the convenience meal that was super simple and easy to make. So I started gravitating just towards like maintaining and just not really caring too much about my fitness. And recently I just noticed a change in my body composition and just how I was feeling, both physically and mentally. The effects of not really working out that much and not following a plan and not really eating the best for the past 2 months were finally catching up to me. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I have about 5 months until my son is going to come, and I kind of have to like get my shit together while I can. So I was like, well, instead of trying to do all of it at once when he's born, it's like, why not just start now, set myself up again, get into a rhythm so that when he's here, it's going to be a little bit easier because I'm already going to have something going on versus trying to fit everything in when he's here because it's going to be crazy. So I started, I hired my own coach, started getting back on track, and I feel great. It's been a month. And, when he's here, it's going to be tricky. Obviously, I have to set proper expectations with myself. It's not going to be the same as it is when it was just me, because I'm just going to be so busy. But I think just finding certain days and times when I can work out is going to be big. So maybe instead of working out, 4 or 5 days a week, it might have to drop down to 2 or 3. It might have to be like early in the morning. I just know I'm going to have to like make time. Like, I'm going to have to make it a priority. And then same thing with nutrition, because it's going to be easy to just pick something up or make a super quick meal that might not be the healthiest. So I'm going to have to just do a better job of planning, which again, like, I'm building that skill now to do that, to better prepare myself to stay on track with my workouts and my nutrition, and make healthier meals, because it's gonna be very easy, I know, to take the easier route out and just say, ah, fuck it, we're not gonna eat this meal today, or hey, I'm just not gonna get this workout in because there's gonna be a lot going on, if that makes sense.
Mhm. And you mentioned you hired your own coach. I'm assuming that's for like the increased accountability during this time. What what stuck like what was the thought process behind picking that specific the specific person that you did?
Yeah.
Oh, curious.
So like I said, for the first time, really, like in the past 10 years, like I've been working out for 10, 11 years, I just fell off. And usually I'm very self-motivated so I can get myself back on. And I tried multiple things. I tried new programs. I tried to hold myself accountable. Sometimes with my clients, what I like to do is like to basically give them a little bit extra accountability. We'll do stuff together, like we'll do like a step challenge together, or even like we'll read a certain book together. And with a few clients, we were kind of doing that, and I love the accountability. And then I noticed once that ended, I was like, well, there's nothing to really do to keep me accountable anymore. So I'm just going to kind of basically go back to what I was doing. So I was kind of like this off and on type of thing. So I've always wanted to kind of like hire a coach, but I felt like this was the perfect time to do it just because where everything was at. And I just needed that extra accountability. I needed some structure. I needed somebody in my corner, to like help me out. And plus, I wanted to, as a coach, I always want to learn and grow and become better. So I also thought that there's no downside to learning from somebody else either. So everything was pointing in the right direction. And the coach I hired basically ended up having like a essentially like a sale and like a call, and hopped on the call with him. And it's somebody that I've followed for, a few years, and that I look up to in a way, and I've learned a lot from. And he ended up having a spot on his roster instead of his team's roster, and it was just like that perfect moment. And man, yeah, it's crazy, not only just talking the talk but walking the walk. Now I've been, in my client's shoes, where I've been tracking my calories. I've been having to hit my step goal and checking in weekly, making sure I get my workouts in, and weighing out my food and all the stuff that we have our clients do. And it's funny because it's like, wow, like, yeah, like I can see how it could be easy to not want to weigh this food, or not want to eat this food today, or kind of skip this workout, or not get my steps in. So it's been really awesome to have the accountability. Um, and it's also been cool too to kind of experience, what our clients experience, and see that it's not so easy. And there are times where you don't want to do something. And so yeah, so that's been kind of like my experience so far. And that's exactly why I hired a coach, just again for the extra accountability, and to have more structure, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And you know what? I think some people, okay, let's say anyone who's not a personal trainer or online coach or just a coach in general, they might hear that and think, why would a personal trainer hire a personal trainer? Like, surely that's the last person that would need one. But I I think it only shows how much you as a person value what you do, and you know how much you doing what you do brings, that like the benefit that it can bring to someone's life, in regard to the guidance, the accountability, removing that guesswork, as well as everything else, that when it's time, okay, you know what, maybe I need a coach right now to help guide me, because I've had one myself in the past. And yeah, it's amazing. And obviously you can learn so much from each person too, so there's always that. But yeah, because I've always thought it's a bit strange when a personal trainer has never had their own personal trainer, because then it's like, I this has just been my thought process is, do you actually value what you do? Because I feel like if you genuinely did, then at some point I reckon you would have hired your own personal trainer. Because yeah, like, do you get, I don't know if I'm articulating it in the best way, but that's always been my thought process with it, because that's just what I've just, I guess, had in mind.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, because again, it's the whole like not just talking the talk but walking the walk. And if you mean you're coaching people, and you're telling people to sign up for coaching and to do this, but if you never like experienced it yourself either, it's like, like you're telling people to do something when you haven't really done it yourself, right? It would just be like coaching people but not working out, right? Like you're like, hey, okay, you need to dial in your nutrition, you need to work out, but like if you don't work out yourself, it's like, okay, like you're kind of being a hypocrite.
Mm.
So I kind of had that realization too. And I've had some people like help me out in the past, but I've never actually had like an actual like personal trainer or a coach. Like I've been parts of teams, and um like other coaches and stuff. And so I've got to witness it there, but it's a lot different when you're the one being coached. It gives you a whole different perspective.
Yeah, and I remember, I agree with what you said 100%, because even I remember when I had my own coach between the ages of like 22 to 24. Yeah, about that. I like it was a very good experience as to what it's like being from the client's perspective. And I would take away the things I like the most from that person, and maybe things I don't want to say like the least, but I feel like could be emphasized more. So yeah, it's just a big learning experience. And I always think that's a really good thing. And I had something else in mind that I really wanted to mention just now, and it's completely slipped my mind. Yeah, really annoying.
I hate when it happens.
Yeah,
But
it was like the perfect follow-up question as well. Um,
I was gonna say, when you figure it out, I can ask you a quick question,
Go on.
to give your mind a little bit more time. When you had your own coach, was it like an online coach, or was it an in-person trainer?
Online.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Why, how come?
I was just giving you more time to define the thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was
Plus, I was pretty curious, just to wonder.
is your coach online as well?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I actually remembered what I wanted to speak
See,
about.
it
There we go.
worked.
Yeah. So, because it's funny that you were saying those things about, I guess, being less consistent than usual. Uh, and you know what? You saying maybe you've been inconsistent, I reckon that's still a lot more than most people out there. But of course, to maybe the standards that you usually hold yourself to, and understandably so, as a, as a coach, you do have to walk the walk as well. Yeah, I remember. I would say between like Hmm. May, no, June and July. June and July, I would say more so. I was in a weird funk with my nutrition and training as well. Um, some of it was out of my hands just because I was traveling so much, so it was quite hard to be consistent with it. But like for the first time ever, I would still try and make sensible choices with my nutrition, but I could feel like just it just that same type of drive and desire, and you could probably extend this for May as well. It just wasn't there, and I don't know as well. But you know what, since I've found out that I'll potentially be doing my first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition in October,
Let's
that's just
go.
like completely brought it back again. Like I nothing else has had to happen. And sometimes I feel like, you know what, it's having a goal that you might need as well, because sometimes I feel like it can be quite easy to, I just feel like I don't know if lost is the right word, but just feel a bit aimless for a while because you don't really have a specific goal in mind, and when you don't have that for, I guess, for an extended period of time, eventually, yeah, it's just quite easy to start going through the motions. But now I've got this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition coming up. I'm like, okay, I want to cut some weight first of all, because because yeah, I just felt like I feel like I could lose some before I go into that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition. And ideally, I would love to be in like the weight bracket below the one that I would probably enter in at right now. Just because I know it would benefit me and I would feel fitter, and yeah, just the obvious reasons for it. And I'm just consistent with to be fair, the training side was always less of a challenge, but yeah, just keep being consistent with that as well. I've actually started lifting more frequently again. I'm like experimenting. As I said on your podcast the other day, I was still figuring out like some sort of routine to balance both the jiu-jitsu and the weight training. And I tried more weight training with some jiu-jitsu, and then I was like, what am I doing? Jiu-jitsu needs to be the priority. I've got so much to learn. So then I went through a phase where I was doing mostly jiu-jitsu with just a little bit of weight training. And the reason, and I didn't really like that because I really enjoy weight training, and I was like, "Ugh," like I'm just
Mhm.
missing it quite a bit, and 2 days a week just isn't it for me right now. And now I'm trying to do like 4 days a week of both. And some I would do on the same day, obviously, because there's not 8 days in a week. But yeah, I'm trying to see how that goes right now, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But so far, so good. I'm just hoping it doesn't result into some sort of overuse injury. But we'll see. I'll try and keep taking it as it comes. Keep scheduling rest days. Um, and we'll see how that goes. So yeah, I definitely couldn't have done that at the start, because when I first started jiu-jitsu, I remember after the first few sessions, I was like, whoa, like the next day I was like sore in places I in muscles I never even felt before. Do you know what I mean? So I was
Yep.
like, whoa. But now I feel like because my body is a lot more used to both, I feel like I can, get like, yeah, I feel like it's not as hard anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting too because when you've done something for so long and then you bring in something new, like going from strength training to jujitsu, it's like it can be hard to balance that out because especially if you love it, like you want to go all in on jujitsu, but like you still love the strength training. So it does take some time. That totally makes sense. How long have you been doing the jujitsu for?
I started in February, so this would be 6 months. I was actually
Okay.
thinking of doing like a YouTube video where every 6 months I just like update. There would be no reason for this YouTube video other than just like something a little bit fun, like a diary, like every 6 months, my thoughts behind it, what I think, maybe what I've learned, the experiences I've taken so far, maybe any lessons learned, etc. And I think that could be like a bit of like a fun like side type of thing to do on YouTube. And I just like have that every 6 months for as long as I feel like doing it. Um, but I don't. I'm living by myself right now, and trying to make YouTube videos alone isn't the easiest.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's always ideal when my girlfriend's here staying with me. It's so much easier because she props the camera up for me, and she's like really good with the lighting and everything. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, since February, and yeah, it's as I said to you the other day, it's really really fun. It's just like a completely different type of fitness that I've um that I've done before, and I know I've said this to other people, but you know, there's guys there and guys and girls there, and just look at them, and I'm just like, and they've been doing it for years, and I'm just like, you can do that? Like, that's crazy. Like, I feel sorry if anyone ever messes with you in the street because these some of these people don't even look like they can do much.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? You would never guess. You would never guess they could do something like that, and then they can just like, I don't know, turn someone inside out in 2 seconds before you even know what's happening. It's just crazy.
So
Yeah.
it's like humbling in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, you could say that. I expected just to get humbled over and over and over again
Uh-huh.
because you know I have realistic expectations. But yeah, if someone you know goes in and maybe they're used to being like the best at everything they do or the biggest person in the gym or the strongest person, and then they go in and you know they're just I don't know getting like you know put in chokeholds by this skinny-ish you know purple or brown belt, maybe not even that, maybe a blue belt. It's a very like humbling experience. So yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't really matter like if you're the biggest or the smallest or you're the strongest. Like you could have the smallest person, you know, basically beat up the biggest person based off of like their experience or technique. And like I don't know too much about jujitsu, but just the very limited times that I went and like just from what I've heard, like you can get humbled really quick, and it's pretty amazing like what some of these people can do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I don't want to act like I'm an expert myself. You know, again, I've only been doing it for 6 months, but yeah, I would say you know as long as there's like not an overwhelming difference in strength, yeah, it's you'll be surprised as to what can happen and yeah, of course, you know, strength does help. I would say that. I think and again, this is just from my observations. What I'm going to say, I could be wrong, but I feel like if technique is evenly matched, then you know the stronger person usually will come on top. But yeah, otherwise, you know, it's just crazy. It's awesome to see, and I really like it. And there are like techniques as well where, um, like even if you're facing a heavy opponent, let's say, like you can kind of use that against them. So yeah, there's just like kind of something for a lot of stuff.
What would you say is like based off of like when you started in February, like what would you say is like your biggest surprise with jujitsu? Like what's a benefit that you've gotten out of it and you're like, "Oh wow, like I didn't expect that." Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, wow, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like everything that I've gotten out of it so far was kind of to be expected up until this point. Maybe if you ask me a year from now.
Mm.
Um, you know what? That's a lie because it's like I said, I feel like getting into jiu-jitsu, I didn't expect that to like just really give my strength training and my nutrition just like something exciting to look forward to. I would say that. It makes sense in hindsight and looking back. It's like, oh, of course it would do that because now you've got like more of an objective. But I guess I didn't expect that sort of effect, like where would it would benefit me outside of the dojo in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I love that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that paints a perfect picture too of like just trying new things, like having fun, and
Mm.
you never know what it could lead to. And um yeah, I just love that you said too, like just kind of gave you the extra motivation and you like enjoy it. I think
Mm.
that's so important. A lot of us, for me as well, like I've recently found too, like just doing stuff that you kind of have fun with, and yeah.
Does anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, honestly, like what I've been doing a lot recently is I haven't been playing basketball, but I've been shooting a little bit more hoops. I used to play basketball back in high school, and it's one of those things where like you don't know what you have until it's gone, like where like you're in the process of doing it. I'm playing in high school. I'm kind of taking it for granted. It's just like, okay, I'm young and like it's a sport. But then as you get older, I'm not like old, but I haven't played in a few years and I was just like, man, I kind of like miss it. So I've just been kind of like, instead of maybe going on like a walk one day, I'll just go up. We have like a school right by us and they have some basketball hoops. I'll just go up and like shoot some hoops from exercise, or I've been really big into like golf lately. So like I'll just do that for like some exercise where like I'll go to the driving range and basically like that's just where you like hit a bunch of balls and like practice your shot. Every Friday, me and my brother, we go up to the golf course and play a few holes. So yeah, it's funny because it kind of like is relatable to like your jujitsu in a way, but it's just two different things. But the concept's kind of the same, where it's like it's a new form of like activity or exercise or a skill, and it's just fun. It's something fun, different to do and
Hmm.
learn. I think learning things are great. I think that's a great trait to have, is to always want to learn new things.
Oh yeah, 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 for sure. And I feel yeah, yeah. Overall, I feel like um, you know what, there, and I guess this kind of nicely leads on to a next question that I actually had in mind as well, because this was actually something similar to what you asked me the other day, was if I had any like sort of performance goals in mind. With all of that said and done, is there anything that you're specifically aiming for right now with your own training and nutrition?
So I told my coach, and this kind of it relates to what I just said with like playing basketball and golf, and basically my goals were to like be able to move like an athlete like I did in high school, get back to being more of an athlete, because I kind of went away from that. Being strong, like that's always a goal. And then being like a jacked dad. So the moving like a athlete, I just feel like I've lost some of my explosiveness, and like even just being able to like jump and move side to side and like even the run. And I just feel like those are, important skills to have, especially with like a little one coming. Like I want to be able to like run around and move. And also like if I want to play in like a rec league or something of like basketball, I can do that without getting hurt or having to worry about myself getting hurt, which you see a lot where, some people play basketball, they haven't played in 10 years, their body's not conditioned for it, and then they get hurt. But in terms of my like number one performance based goal that I want to have is I want to deadlift 405. I just, for no other reason, that I just want to be able to pull 4 plates off the ground. I just think that'd be
Oh,
cool. That's
okay.
basically it. That's like my number one goal. I don't care about squat. I mean, I squat and bench and do everything, but I just really want to be able to deadlift like 405 for no other reason why. I just think it'd look cool to pull 4 plates.
How's that going so far?
Good. It's good. Like I said, I took a little break from deadlifting. I did a lot more like powerlifting earlier on in the year. I think I got up to 340 by 5. Um, so I don't even know what that would be for my 1 rep max, but um right now I'm back up to 3. I did 315 with my 4 by 5 last week. So slowly but surely it's going pretty well, and I'm having fun, which is important. So yeah.
I love that. That's fun. That's awesome. And recently I've been on this massive deadlift itch as well, which I can't satisfy because the gym that I go to doesn't have a deadlift platform or bumper plates.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, there's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Like the only deadlifts I can really do are deadlifts with dumbbells, which just don't really hit the same. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I've even been thinking of changing gyms just because of that. But it would be less convenient. So I'm in a bit of a catch-22. But yeah, what I really like, and I think this is just like a really good take-home message for the listener as well, is that it's just having these specific type of goals in place, where mine was to be able to do a specific number of chin-ups back in January. And yours is to deadlift a specific amount of weight. It just makes you want to be more consistent, and it's
Mhm.
more, I think it's very exciting. It can add something to your health and fitness journey, and again, it just helps with consistency. I feel like sometimes, or often, from just what I've seen, is I think sometimes people get into a rut with it, potentially the listener as well, or they potentially get frustrated because I feel like a lot of people, especially in their earlier days, they're very, very focused on aesthetics. They want, a certain body part to get smaller, or they want, I don't know, another body part to get bigger, or they want to lean down in one area. And then when they realize it maybe doesn't necessarily work like that, or they've been consistent for a while, and maybe they are actually getting great results, but because they're not seeing exactly what they wanted to see, even though it might have not been realistic, they get very frustrated. And that's why I feel like, again, just aiming for these types of performance goals, or even consistency goals, where we maybe can give an example of consistency goals shortly, but I think it just makes the whole process much easier. And yeah, oftentimes aesthetics, better aesthetics, improved aesthetics, because we would be lying if we said, we don't want to look better naked. Like, obviously everyone wants that too. Uh, they end up becoming a byproduct if you hit those performance goals often. So yeah, I think that's just something to think about without that obsession over it, which can sometimes be a bit of an unhealthy obsession depending on the person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's a great point. Because a lot of the times, there's a bunch of things that could go on with aesthetic goals. And again, there's nothing wrong with aesthetic goals. We all want to look better naked, like you just said. But a lot of times, number one, like you don't have control over exactly what you're gonna look like, the rate of the progress that's gonna happen. You're, like you said, setting unrealistic expectations. You might want something quicker to happen, or you might want to look some muscle to look a certain way, but the way your body is made up, like if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, like genetics play a role, rate of progress plays a role. And we're always our hardest critics, right? So like you might look really good, right? But subjectively in your brain, you might think, oh, I don't look as good as I want to. So that's the risk of just going off of aesthetic based goals. And like you said, like I love having a performance based goal because it's something that you have control over. Like you can objectively see, hey, I'm getting stronger in X lift. Hey, I was able to do one more push up this week. I was able to lift 5 more pounds in my deadlift, whatever the case may be. And like you mentioned too, like it's a byproduct of the aesthetics are a byproduct of those performance based goals, and you're going to be more motivated. It's a lot more fun. Like we just talked about how much we're having fun, like with jujitsu and focusing on like deadlift and all that kind of stuff. And one thing too, like even if you don't have, like, let's just say, like I want to be able to get X amount of chin ups, or I want to be able to deadlift X amount of weight, or bench press X amount of weight, even if like you just took it like on a monthly basis, there's something like I've done with a few clients where like at the each end of the program, like there's like a goal section. So let's just say like you're like, okay, hey, by the end of this month, there's my bicep curl. I want to try getting 20 pounds for 10 reps. Like even setting like monthly goals can be motivating as well, where it's like it's a smaller portion of like your bigger goal. So if you want to deadlift, 225 each month, you could say, hey, this month I want to try getting to 185 by 5, or I want to try getting to 190 by 5 or something. Like I found that setting monthly goals can be a lot motivating too, just with that program, if that kind of makes sense too.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, I agree a lot with what you said. I think and I can speak about this from personal experience as well. I think the time where I was probably hardest on myself, and what I perceived was a lack of progress at the time, but actually I was making very good progress. And maybe, yeah, just I guess the most frustrated in my fitness journey was when I was like relentlessly trying to chase aesthetics like, which I find is an interesting observation because that was for, I would say, maybe the first, I don't know, year and a half of me consistently working out. I had started working out long before then, but I got injured quite early on, so I never had the chance to have any real consistency. But yeah, after that injury was out the way, for like the first year and a half, again, was very consistent, was chasing aesthetics relentlessly, what would make me look better, etc. And ironically, again, like I was probably, I think a year and a half in, I was probably like the worse off, like not physically perhaps, but mentally. And I found that quite interesting because this is the first time I've been consistent with my health and fitness journey ever, and I'm not feeling the healthiest right now. So that was quite an interesting observation. And then I feel like we've mentioned him in every single podcast episode we've had, but when Jordan, and then I remember following Jordan Syatt's content for a while. This was like when I was first getting into his content. For a while, I was just like, oh, his content is good, but it's not as hardcore as I would like it to be. So I'm not like totally interested. And then after a while, I was just like, you know what? This guy is talking a lot of sense because I remember he was talking about aiming for performance goals, making consistency goals. And eventually I just got to a time where I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. Let me try it. And I never turned back. And I was just like, this is a no-brainer. Like this makes so much sense.
Yeah. Sometimes there is something to be said where you just have to experience it to
Yes.
know it's not the thing, you know.
Yeah.
So let me ask, did you think so you said like a year and a half when you first started lifting and like you were in like the best shape about like around that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you first started, like, did you think that getting to X amount of body fat percentage or X weight was going to make you happier and feel better?
I spoke about this quite a bit in my last podcast episode, so maybe the listeners heard this before, but it's good to have it's nice to have a conversation about it. I think what it was when I was first like really getting consistent with my health and like just the whole gym and nutrition thing. I used to look, and this was just like me being completely misinformed, but I used to look at physique athletes like they were the epitome, like the highest, like that was the definition of health and fitness. And I feel like that's still a common mistake people make today because ironically, maybe on the day where they're peaking on that show they're probably like the least healthiest and the least
Yeah.
fittest. They're not healthy. They look, shredded, and I don't want to take away anything from them. Like I know it's full props to them for being there, but yeah, that is certainly not the epitome of health and fitness.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head. It's, people think that's what healthy is. And ironically, number one, those people don't look like that year round. They
Oh,
might,
that has to be emphasized.
yeah, they don't look like that year round. Like, trust me. it's
Yeah.
it's a very short period of time. And I have friends, not like multiple, but I have a few friends right now who are competing and they look great. They do. But I can tell you that their relationship with food isn't the best. So there's pros and cons to everything, that because I went through something very similar when
Mm.
I was at my leanest. Very similar to you where, I just thought, I thought I was gonna like, I'll be honest, and fully transparent. Like I thought people were gonna be like, holy shit, like look at Bob. Like I was doing it for well, I can't think of the word. Uh I was doing it for attention. Um, but then also like let the ego get in the way a little bit. And I had a really bad relationship with food. This is when I went keto. And I had such bad like body dysmorphia where like, man, like looking back at pictures now, like I was extremely lean, but I literally would look in the mirror and I was like, oh man, like I could get leaner. And I thought that that was what's going to make me happy. And that's what was going to get me clients. And that was what's going to get me attention. Like this is when I first started coaching. And ironically, it's like the exact opposite happened. Like I wasn't happy. I was always fucking starving. My relationship with food was terrible. I would binge, I would restrict. I had no energy. and for my workouts, my libido went completely down. Nobody said anything to me. It wasn't like, if anybody said anything to me, it was like a guy. They're like, whoa, dude, like you're looking jacked. Like it was just, I was not happy. And funny enough, like when I kind of switched that perspective, I think I talked to you about this on my podcast a little bit, like finding Mind Pump. They're really the first time I heard like, oh, you don't need to do as much and like actually feed your body to build muscle. Because at this point I was working out like 6, 7 days a week. So I cut it back to like a 4 day split, and started actually eating more food, which ironically led me to eating less food over the long haul because I totally got rid of like my binge and restrict, and
Mm.
I was just much more happier. I had so much more energy. I was getting better sleep. I was a nicer person to be around. I didn't realize how much of a for lack of a better term, like douchebag I was to be around. Um, but yeah, man, just kind of like looking back now, it's like wow, like I think so many people really want to experience that, but I would also be a hypocrite to say like don't do it because
Yeah,
I wouldn't have known any of that
yeah,
stuff if I didn't do it.
yeah, same. And I had a question, but I don't know if it would be like maybe stepping out our zone or our speciality very much. But
No, that's
it's this is just like your opinion, what I'm about to
yeah.
ask. So no right or wrong answer. How often do you think people potentially go into something like doing physique shows or aiming for physique shows to perhaps, I'm trying to think of a good word, like maybe disguise a disordered relationship with food and exercise? Do you think that's quite common?
Um, like, are you saying like to use it as like a justification
Yeah,
to eat that way? Oh yeah, I would. In my opinion, I would imagine that a lot of people do that.
yeah,
I think I think people, um, I know like there's people that for sure do it for like the right reasons because
yeah,
like the sport, and they want to get leaner, but I think, you know what I think actually, the more I'm thinking about it, in my like just based on like my opinion, I wonder if when they first go into it, it's for those reasons, like it's a good intention, but then throughout that process, they build these really bad habits, these really bad relationships with food and exercise and their body. And I wonder if that's why they do multiple shows. I wonder if like, versus just like trying it once, I wonder if like that kind of perpetuates them to like what you said, where it's like, okay, hey, I have trouble not staying like this and getting out of this mindset. So I'm just gonna use doing more shows as justification to stay this way. Does that kind of make sense?
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of where my thinking goes. If I had to guess, but it's kind of hard to say, for sure. Because I've never experienced I was never part of a bodybuilding show, so I can't talk from personal experience.
Yeah, yeah, same. That what you highlighted there, I think, was actually quite a good point, and one I didn't think about before. But yeah, it's like you said as well. I think a lot of people actually can pull it off really well. There's a few people that I follow on Instagram who are quite big in the industry, and they do like physique and bodybuilding shows. And yeah, it seems like they've just really got an amazing awareness about them. But yeah, then I do think on the other hand, I have like encountered people just from being involved in the fitness industry where you can kind of see it's just like, oh, you know what? Like, and this is just like I guess a personal thought I have for myself. It's not like I'll go and tell them this, but it's just like I feel like a physique show is not what you need. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes I've looked at people and I'm just like a physique show would make you've already got like, to put it bluntly, a fucked up relationship with food and not a healthy relationship with exercise, and you want to do physique shows like I've seen that before where someone might be listening, they might think, oh yeah, how can you just say that about someone? But I've been around people long enough and just seen how they are where I'm just like, oh, sometimes it can actually do more damage than good for some people, and those are the types of people it attracts very much as well sometimes too.
Yeah, and that's such a good point. Um, Yeah, that's a really good point because it is a sport, right? Like just like anything, like physique shows are a sport. Like you're getting your body extremely lean to show off in front of judges and compete against other competitors to win, essentially. But I think I think now like there's some really good coaches out there who specialize in this and do it properly. Um, it's more of like you kind of said, where like because I've actually been around a decent amount of people who have done physique shows, and the vast majority of them are it's not people who are doing it for the sport. It's more people who are doing it for themselves because they think it's gonna make them like look a certain way, or they think they have to do one to like stay in shape. You know what I mean? Like I agree. I've kind of like seen that a little bit more myself, but there's definitely a lot of people as well who do it right and who do, do it the right way. Because there are people who and coaches who like specialize in that, but there's also a lot of people at the same time who do it for the wrong reasons, the wrong way, and they can really screw themselves up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to add or any other like point you wanted to bring up about literally anything that we have or haven't spoken about before I maybe wind down this podcast episode?
Um, hmm. That's a good question, dude. Um, I guess I kind of had one question to ask you on my podcast
Oh, go
that
on.
it's kind of like again it's more of like a personal question. It's more of like but this could tie into literally anything in life and especially fitness for people who are on their fitness journey. Um, and it was more of like, like what when things are like tough, and it's being an online coach is different because we are by ourselves a lot and we're online. Like, how do you get through like those difficult times? You know what I mean? Like, and this can pertain to fitness where it's like, because it's not always easy. There are gonna be times where people want to quit. And it's just like, how do you like what do you do to like push through like those difficult times or those times where it's like it would be easy to quit, but you're like, you know what? I gotta keep going, or yeah.
Yeah, that's a
That
good
kind of makes sense.
question. And there's a few, yeah, that does make sense. There's a few ways I could take this down. Because there's like a few types of yeah, just like ways I could just types of thoughts I'm having with that. Um, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't moments in the past where I was just like questioning this, like growing my own business because being freelance is hard. I will say that, especially when you're just starting out, you're trying to grow it by yourself. You've got no experience of doing it. It's you're doing this whole thing for the first time. Meanwhile, maybe you've got people close to you who are like questioning it as well. You see, it's just all of that is in your head, and I think writing down like your wins over time really reminds you like, oh, actually, like no, this like I think it appreciates how makes you appreciate how far you've come already, because for example, I know maybe a Leo just getting started with online coaching back in what 2020. I was a personal trainer and I was training way before that, but like specifically online coaching back in 2020. If you told him maybe, I don't know, a few years later, you would have helped various people achieve results that they desire. And all these reviews that you have now and testimonials, as well as, an email list of I think it's like closing on 700 people and like I don't know, a YouTube which it's still small, but like I think it's like 350 subscribers or something rounded. So just things like that. I know at the time I would have like jumped at that. So I've also got to appreciate how far I've come. I was also like remaking my website recently, and when I was going over the online coaching page and speaking about that and seeing like all the testimonials written, I was just like, wow, like that was really nice for my ego just now, or just like a very nice big boost in confidence. So um I know the listener likely isn't doing online coaching, but that's just like more of a just answer from me specifically. But I think, just to kind of round it off, I think making a list of your wins slowly over time is actually such an underrated tool. And I'm not the most consistent with it, but I got the inspiration from an online member of mine. I wish I could pull up the list right now, but my phone's in the other room charging. But she used to write down all her little wins from her fitness journey with me. And she said every time she felt demotivated, she would look at it. And it was like little things in there. Like she now can tie her shoelaces without getting out of breath. She can go up the stairs without getting out of breath. She had to change her face ID because her face had slimmed down so much. There was like so many things. A pair of trousers fit her now that didn't fit her before, and it was her favorite one. So she was quite upset about that, but now she's really happy. And it was just like win after win after win after win after win, and none of them were to do with the scale, which I thought was quite interesting too. But yeah, it's just, I think keeping like lists of your wins is just underrated, because when I look at it as well, it's like, okay, so I've got my, when I just first started out, I've got my first 5 online clients, so I've got my first 10 online clients, so I've got my first client outside of the UK, I've got my first client within Europe, I've got my first client within the US, I've got my first client. So you can I've got my website for the first time, so you can just like see it growing over time. And I feel like just having a list of wins just serves as that reminder as to, oh, actually this is heading in the right direction. And another 3 years from now, who's to say where it could be? So I think, and that can apply for anything. Again, the listener can apply that to their just, I guess, their own way. And I feel like having a community around you, like on another note, but to extend off that, is really underrated as well. And not that I want to keep speaking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but that's also why I signed up for that community aspect, because I felt I really needed that. And like you said, we work alone a lot. So I felt like after a while, just like, you know what, I need a community. That was just another reason to sign up. And I feel like that's made a massive difference too. So yeah, could potentially be something for the listener to think about as well. Just like join somewhere where you can be part of a fun community.
Yeah, dude, I love that. That was great. You hit that out of the ballpark. That was awesome. That was a great answer. I think you brought up a great point because I have a very similar client, Amy, who does something very similar to where she always um lays out her wins, but it's not like your typical wins where it's like scale weight or inches going down or strength in the gym. It's like one of her wins was being able to carry her gerbil food inside. Another win was like, hey, I was able to, like when you park 2 cars next to each other, and like if you don't want to open the door and smash your car and your door into another car. So she was like, I used to have to like never park in between 2 cars because I was never able to like get out without like hitting my door on somebody's car. And she was like, yeah, now I can literally park in between 2 cars, open my door a little bit and like sneak out because I've lost a lot of weight. So like I love that because that's something I'm really bad at. It's funny. Like there's so many parallels between like anything in life, like business and fitness, but like for whatever reason, like our brain just wants to go towards like the negative first. Um, and I love this, and this is something I'm actually gonna take from you, Leo. Is just like really jotting down like your wins, because when you actually see them, like it puts things into perspective and makes you think like, oh yeah, things are going great, and it's only been X amount of time. Like where's it going to be in 3 to 5 years from now? And again, this can be for anything, um, especially for fitness because results do take time, and it's like these little wins, don't take it for granted. Like there's never too small of a win. Like they all add up. So yeah, I love that because I love that, and that's actually is like a side note. With the community thing, I couldn't agree more, especially working online. Like I love it, but like it did make me realize something similar to you with jujitsu. It's like I am missing that piece, and I think community is so big. And again, this is why like I'm not the biggest fan of like group classes, but like I love it for the community aspect. But like I started coaching again, like in person a little bit, just because like I missed that community. So I definitely think like if you're somebody who is, like just on your starting your fitness journey, maybe you're on your journey, maybe you want to join a new gym, like joining a gym, joining a class, joining a group. Maybe if like you want to bring a friend to the gym, like I think that's a great idea. It can't hurt to have people in your corner. But yeah, dude, I love that. That was great.
Mm. That wasn't a
Yeah.
bad episode for someone who had absolutely nothing planned
Yes.
to do it,
I
right?
was gonna say it just flew, dude. It was awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, where can people find you?
You can find me on um, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Bob Hoover Fitness. My Twitter actually might be different. I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what my Twitter is. I think it's
I'll link
B
it in the show
Fit.
notes.
Okay. My website, Bob Hoover Fitness, podcast, Bob Hoover Fitness podcast. And that's basically it. Pretty simple.
Go and give drop Bob a follow because he's 100% worth it and he gives out great advice. Otherwise, Bob, thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate that.
All right, bro. Thank you for having me. It was awesome. Appreciate it.